Welcome to Mixie Veteran Stories, where quiet lives hide unforgettable truths, and sometimes the hands that once held a rifle now hold a broken toy. This is the story of a man no one really noticed, until one child saw more than just kindness in his work. He saw a face, a story, and a connection to something his own family never forgot. And what happened next turned a small repair table into a shrine of memory and healing. There's a little street in a sleepy town called Willow Lane, lined with oak trees, front porches, and the kind of silence that makes small things matter. And at the very end of that street, in a modest brick house with peeling shutters and a crooked mailbox, lives a man named Ray Bennett. He doesn't talk much, doesn't wave to every car, but every morning, without fail, he pulls out an old wooden table onto his porch, sits on a creaky chair, and starts fixing things, mostly toys. Broken action figures, remote control cars with missing wheels, dolls that no longer blink or sing, plastic helicopters with snapped rotors. And he fixes them. Not for money, not for praise. Just because, as he once said, some things deserve a second chance. At first, it was just neighborhood kids bringing old toys. One by one, they'd leave something broken in a small box by his fence, and a few days later, it would reappear, clean, mended, whole. They called him Mr. Ray the Toy Guy. They didn't know anything else. Not where he came from, not what he did before, just that he had quiet hands and eyes that seemed to drift somewhere far away when he thought no one was looking. Some parents found it odd. Others simply shrugged and smiled. In a world that moves too fast, who questions kindness when it shows up without asking for anything in return? To most people, he was just a lonely old man with a screwdriver and a soft spot for broken things. But to the kids, he was something more. He gave them hope, that even the most beat-up things could come back good as new. And for Liam Martinez, 11 years old, the toy Mr. Ray fixed wasn't the most important thing that day. It was what he saw inside that porch, and who exactly this quiet man used to be. It started with a toy helicopter, bright red. 2 of the blades were snapped clean off. The paint was chipped. The little switch that made it light up was long gone. Liam Martinez, 11 years old, had tried fixing it himself, but all he'd done was glue his fingers together. So, like the other kids on Willow Lane, he dropped it off in the box by Mr. Ray's fence, wrapped in a paper bag with his name on it. And like clockwork, 3 days later, it was back. Perfect. The blades spun. The light blinked. Even the tiny motor inside hummed when he turned the switch. But that wasn't what caught Liam's attention. No. It was what he saw through the window when he went to peek and maybe, just maybe, say thank you. Mr. Ray's door was slightly open. The sun lit up the front room just enough to show a table full of tools, and something tucked on the wall behind it. Liam stepped closer, framed, dusty, but unmistakable. A black and white photograph, a squad of men in combat gear, huddled together in a jungle clearing, some smiling, some scarred, and in the middle, a younger version of Mr. Ray, holding a child in one arm and a rifle in the other. Liam blinked. He didn't know why it made his heart pound, but something about the image felt important, familiar. He didn't knock, didn't say anything. He just turned and ran home. That evening, while sitting at the kitchen table, Liam pulled out a crumpled sheet of paper and started sketching what he remembered from the photo. Not every face, just the one in the middle, the soldier with the sharp jaw, the one holding the baby. He showed it to his dad, Carlos Martinez, a former Marine. Carlos was stirring a pot on the stove when he glanced down. Then he froze. "Where did you see this?" he asked, voice low. "At the toy guy's house," Liam replied. I think it's him. He looked younger in the picture, but it's him, right? Carlos sat down. Slowly. His hands trembled. He turned the sketch to face him. That's Ray Bennett, he said. That's Sergeant Bennett. But he died. Or at least, that's what we were told. Liam tilted his head. You know him? Carlos stared out the window. His voice dropped to a whisper. He saved my life. Back in Kandahar. Pulled me out after the blast. I had a picture with him and everything, but it got lost. I always wondered if he made it out too. His eyes filled. We thought he was gone. No one ever found him. Liam leaned closer. He's not gone, Dad. He's fixing toys. Just down the street. Carlos was already reaching for his jacket. That night, just past sunset, Carlos and Liam walked down Willow Lane side by side, the broken helicopter now resting in Liam's hands, a quiet symbol of something much bigger than a toy. They reached the porch. The small work lamp still glowed, and there he was. Mr. Ray, hunched slightly over a battered tin robot, adjusting its arm with surgical precision. Carlos stepped forward first. Sergeant Bennett. Ray didn't look up, not right away. But when he did, it was like time folded in on itself. Those eyes, the same eyes Carlos remembered through the smoke and chaos of Kandahar, locked onto his. Ray froze. His hand dropped from the robot. The screwdriver rolled off the table and hit the porch with a soft click. Carlos? Carlos nodded. His voice cracked. You saved me. You carried me through gunfire. You disappeared. They said you were gone. I never forgot your face. Ray blinked. Once. Twice. Then he exhaled. A deep, shaky breath, as if he'd been holding it for over a decade. I didn't die, he said quietly. I just stopped coming back. Carlos stepped closer. Why? Why disappear? Ray looked down at his hands, still strong, still steady, but tired. Because everything I touched after the war broke. My marriage, my family, my peace of mind, all shattered. He picked up the tin robot again. So I decided I'd spend the rest of my time fixing what I could. Little things, simple things. Toys don't scream at night. Toys don't remember the smell of blood. Carlos sat down slowly on the steps. Liam stood beside him, wide-eyed, silent. Ray glanced at the boy, then at the helicopter in his hands. Did it work? Liam nodded. It flew again. Ray smiled faintly. Good. That one took extra glue. Carlos spoke again, softly this time. You know, I named my son after the medic that treated me when you pulled me out. His name was Liam, too. Ray's eyes softened. I remember that kid, tiny guy. Wouldn't stop humming Sinatra under fire. They both chuckled. And for a moment, just a moment, the war felt far away. Ray stood up and walked to the door. He opened it wide. Come in. I want to show you something. Inside, the small house was cluttered, not with junk, but with history. Shelves of restored toys, walls lined with books about engineering and survival. And in the corner, a dusty old trunk. Ray bent down, opened it. Inside, a stack of medals, folded letters, and the original photo Liam had seen, the one from the jungle. Ray gently pulled it out and handed it to Carlos. This is the only thing I kept. Carlos stared at it, then back at Ray. You were our ghost story, Ray. The guy who did the impossible, then vanished. Ray sat back down. I didn't want to be remembered as the soldier. I wanted to be remembered as the guy who could make things work again. He looked around the room, eyes glistening. It just took me a long time to believe that fixing toys could mean something. Liam stepped closer. It does. He handed Ray the helicopter, now fully fixed. Because you didn't just fix this. You gave me a dad to come home to. Outside, the porch light flickered. But inside, something had switched on. Something warmer than bulbs. Something brighter than memory. And for the first time in years, Ray Bennett didn't feel like a man in hiding. He felt seen. Word spreads fast in small towns. Not through headlines, but through conversations over fences, coffee shop whispers, and schoolyard chatter. By the end of the week, just about everyone in Willow Lane knew the man who fixed toys was a war hero. At first, people didn't know how to act. Some waved a little longer as they passed his porch. Some dropped off toys with thank you notes instead of names. And one little girl left a purple crayon drawing that simply said, "You fix hearts too." Ray didn't say much, didn't change his routine. He still opened his toolbox each morning at 9 o'clock, still wore his patched-up gray jacket, still worked with those same patient hands. But something was different. Now people looked him in the eye. Now they saw him. One Saturday, a group of local parents organized a thank you day. They brought lemonade, cookies, and picnic blankets to the park. They didn't tell Ray in advance, just hoped he'd come. He did. Escorted by Carlos and Liam, Ray stood under a big oak tree as a small crowd clapped softly. It wasn't a ceremony. It wasn't a speech. It was just a moment. A veteran from the next town over handed Ray a coin, an old challenge coin passed down through generations. He said only, "For the man who never asked to be remembered, but is." Later that week, the local school invited Ray to speak. He almost declined. "I fix plastic wheels, not minds," he told Carlos. But Liam insisted. "Just tell them about one thing you fixed." So Ray went. He stood in front of a room of fifth graders, hands tucked behind his back. No PowerPoint, no uniform. Just his voice, quiet but steady. He told them about a little robot he fixed with duct tape, then a radio he once repaired with a shoelace, then finally, about the time he stitched a soldier's boot together in the middle of a sandstorm so he wouldn't have to keep running barefoot. He didn't talk about war. He talked about keeping things going when they're supposed to give up. When he finished, a boy in the front raised his hand. "Mr. Ray, do you ever fix people?" Ray smiled. "Only the ones who let me." From then on, the fence outside Ray's house became a quiet little symbol. People began hanging thank you notes on it. Toy soldiers, flags, even photos of loved ones who served. Someone printed out his wartime photo and framed it under the words, "Sergeant Ray Bennett, fixer of things that matter." And Ray? He didn't say much about it, but he did add a second chair to his porch, just in case someone wanted to sit a while and listen. Winter came. The porch grew quieter, fewer toys in the box, fewer children walking by in the cold. But Ray Bennett still showed up, every morning, like clockwork. Even when the wind bit through his jacket, even when his fingers stiffened with the cold. He sat, hands wrapped around a warm mug, eyes watching the street, as if waiting for something only he could see. One morning, there was a package on the bench beside him. Not a toy, a folded flag, a photo of Carlos, Liam's father, in uniform, and a small note. "He told me you saved his life. I just wanted you to know. You saved mine too. Thank you." Liam Ray held the note for a long time. Then, for the first time in years, he placed the screwdriver back in its box and closed the lid. He didn't fix another toy after that day. Not because he couldn't, but because he'd fixed what needed fixing most. Ray passed peacefully in his sleep 2 weeks later. The town woke to the news like it was missing a heartbeat. No sirens, no headlines, just quiet and gratitude. At the memorial, they didn't play taps. They played the sound of children laughing, recorded clips from families whose toys he'd restored. The mayor read a short line. He mended plastic, but he repaired far more than we'll ever know. Liam stood beside the casket and placed something small on the flag. The helicopter, still scratched, still flying. Today the porch is still there, the wooden table too. A plaque now rests on the rail just beneath the mailbox. Ray Bennett. He didn't want to be remembered as a soldier. He wanted to be remembered as someone who made things whole again. Every Christmas, local kids hang tiny toy parts on the fence like ornaments. It's called Ray's Tree, a reminder that even the smallest acts of care can leave the biggest legacy.